We now have Alex Rees and her troupe, a gang, doing a rendering of Joe Corrie's The Darkness. And Alex will say a few words about this. Alex?
Oh. Okay. Yes. Hello everybody, thank you for coming. Today I'm going to be talking about Joe Corrie, who was a coal miner living between 1894 to 1968, and he wrote hundreds of plays and poems, as well as numerous short stories and even a novel. And I wanted to talk about Corrie particularly, not just because I personally believe he's probably the most significant Scottish literary coal mining writer of the first half of the 20th century, but also because he positions disability centrally in many of his works. His only novel, Black Earth, of 1939, follows the life of a mining family in which the father becomes paralysed by a roof fall. And several of Corrie's short stories make prominent use of disability, both in physical and cognitive impairment. Now, Corrie was born in 1894 in Llanman in Stirlingshire, 2 years before his father became a surfaceman in the Fife coalfield at Cardendon in 1896. In 1908, at the age of 14, Corrie went down the pit, but he continued to educate himself via the Miners' Institute and the Workers' Educational Association. As a boy, he enjoyed the travelling theatres, which were known as penny geggies, and made regular use of the Bow Hill Recreation and Reading Room, which opened in 1904. Many years later, Corrie wrote that he was helped by living in a locality where there was a great deal of intelligence, political consciousness, and rebelliousness against the many iniquities of the coal industry. He began writing around 1918, just after the First World War, and became known locally as the poet. He became a considerable popular poet, known particularly for The Image of God, and somewhat infamously for It's Fine to Keep In with the Gaffer, which made fun of men who changed their hobby to match the interest of the gaffer to get favours. And this did get him into some trouble at the time, though not enough to lose his job. Now, Corrie's politics were an important aspect of his writing and of his poetry, often highlighting the hardships of the mining community, the physical strain of the work, the difficulties of low wages and unemployment, and in a strong voice would often rebel against these injustices. And this can be seen in Corrie's well-known poem, The Image of God, which Ewan McVicker said he would read for me today to do justice to the voice of it.
Crawling about like a snail in the mud, covered with clammy blade, me made after the image of God, James, but it's laughable tale. How can I walk neath a mountain of stain, gasping for want of air? The sweat making streams down my bare back bed, and my knees all hackett and sere, straining and cussing the hell shift through, half starved, half blind, half mad. And the gaffer, he says, let's duck in that coal or you go up the pit, my lad. So I give my life to the Nimmo squad, echt and foul a day, me, made after the image of God. James, that's laughable tale.
Now, it was during the miners' lockout of 1926 that Corrie began writing one-act plays, and he formed an amateur dramatic company, initially raising money to fund soup kitchens. And his best-known play, In Time of Strife, toured successfully all over Scotland with the Bow Hill Players, who later became the Fife Minor Players. And it was also performed by other companies in London, Germany and Russia. It was most recently performed last year by the National Theatre of Scotland, and it's also been performed by the 784 in 1982. Corrie wrote close to 100 plays on all sorts of different subjects, but almost all of them depict scenes of Scottish working class life. And many of these plays focus on coal mining families, often of a very serious tone, such as Hewers of Coal, A Master of Men, and The Darkness, which we're going to be having today. And I've got some images from his plays, And this first one is from Hewers of Coal in 1936, being performed by a local company, the New Battle Burns Dramatic Society. And in this play, these men are talking over their lunch break when a roof collapse traps them in the mine. And in this next scene, they've been trapped for 5 days, and although we can hear the sound of rescuers getting closer, it becomes increasingly clear that they're not going to be rescued in time. And the play sort of ends on the last of their lamp oil running out. This next image is from another Corrie play, The Income, which is set in a mining doctor's surgery. These men have come in with minor injuries and ailments, or what were considered quite minor injuries and ailments, but they become convinced they have something fatal in a kind of comedic scene between them and a gossipy woman in the waiting room. Now, today we're having readings from The Darkness, a play in which the central character is a miner who lost his sight in an accident in the pit. And it's a very interesting example for the way it stages sight impairment through the blind miner John. Throughout the play, he describes his world through sound and touch, and reminisces on lost and remembered sights, and cursing the eternal darkness. And of course, the darkness here is not only referring to his sight loss, but also the darkness of lives entwined in the coal industry, in which injury, poverty, and social injustice are rife. The darkness is tied to a lack of hope for improvement in the conditions for the miners, both in terms of safety conditions below ground and in the hope of an improvement in poverty. Now, this is written in the early 1930s when the Depression was really quite rife. And as it has been said, that Corrie's plays lose a lot of their power, performed in English accents. I think that was said of the London production of Hewers of Coal in particular. I've been fortunate enough to enlist the help of some local voices who are going to read the play for me today. And rather than reading the whole play, I'm going to introduce 3 sections, and so I will occasionally come in to say what's going on between the sections that are being read. And I think we'll have that now. Thank you very much. Okay, so you have to use your imaginations a little bit. Yeah, yes, thank you. So, cast the scene. So, the play is performed entirely inside a small miner's house and begins with a discussion between the blind miner John and his daughter Nan about John's increasing obsession of the noise of the pit engines, which can be clearly heard throughout the play. John is described as a broad-shouldered miner of strong appearance, whose eyes are covered with dark green spectacles. Nan is described as a sweet-looking lass in a workabout overall.
You're thinking over much about the engines, Father. The doctor said you were to try and get them out of your head.
Been trying hard, Nan, but it's no use. Throb, day and night and day, throbbing right into my very brain. I wish something would happen to them and blow them in the bloody air.
Oh, Father, don't say that. It might happen.
It's the only thing that'll bring me peace. Throb, mocking me and jeering at me.
Our luck may turn before long, Father. Have patience a wee while. If Jimmy signs for the Rovers, he'll take you away from here and you'll no hear the sound of the engines. Try and get them out of your brain.
They seem to have got the better of me, Nan. If they would let me sleep at next, I wouldn't mind so much, but throb, the whole night through. I was a damned fool to give back to that misfast shot in such a hurry. I might have kept better. I might have thought, trusted to luck and
What's past is past, Father, and regret no it'll no help things. Far better to look forward to the day when you get your ticket, you get your sicht back again.
if I just saw the least glimmer of hope, lass, but everything is black as midnight, my eyes are the one thing in my life that I valued the most.
You'll get it back yet, Father. Just have patience and live in hope.
Hope? I wish I could hope. But they engines keep telling me that I'll never see again. Oh, curse the blasted things. They're going to drive me mad.
Dinna talk like that, Father. You'll only make yourself worse. You'll drive us all mad.
Can't you help it, Nan?
At this point, Agnes, John's wife, enters from outside. She's a typical woman of the coalfields, rather pale and worn-looking.
Is Jimmy home yet, Nan?
No, he's gone to be a rush for him the day again.
The Fitbit is more important in the new than the pit, it seems.
What kind of a day is it new, Agnes?
It's a bonny day, John. The sun's shining, likes to crack the trees.
The broom will be in full bloom now.
Aye, the countryside's a mass of gold.
A mass of gold. And I can see Nathan.
By next summer, John, you'll see the broom again. These seek's a queer thing. A body never kens what a day may bring forth even.
You hae seen that mony a time, Agnes, but the days and the months pass, there's no improvement. Listen to the damnation engines. They're worse the day than there hae ever been. Nan, will you go down the street and try and see Willie? I'd like to see him take me for a walk. I want to feel the scent of the broom.
Aye, a walk will do you good a day like this, John.
God kens what I hae done to deserve this. Coal, get out the coal. What does it matter if a man loses his sick, or his life even? The country wants cheap coal, so get it out. Yeah, machine that you are, get out the bloody coal.
John, you never used to talk like that.
How can I help it? Blind for the rest of my life. And all because of the rush to get out an extra ton of coal. It would be the best thing that ever happened if every pit in the country was blown in the air.
John, you'll need to stop that talk. You're making me fear. I'll go and get Willie, Nan. Tell him your father's wearying for a walk.
Jimmy enters, half-dressed for work. This is John's son. He sits at the table and Agnes pours out tea. Oh, I just missed a section, sorry. Right. At this point, John's son Jimmy comes home with the news he might be signed on for £6 a week, which was a huge sum at the time, with a professional football team. He's described as an athletic, bright and cheerful youth. He promises to use the money to send his father to an eye specialist and that they would be able to afford to live away from the noise of the pit. He then goes to get changed into his pit clothes.
God, it would be fine, Agnes, if we could get out of here. Away from the noises, that in itself might bring my sight back. I might have faith then, and faith is half the cure, I believe.
Oh, John, I'd be the proudest woman in the country the day you got your sight back. It's been a terrible blow to us.
Came that sudden, Agnes, that's what makes it so hard. Just a year the day since I won the bowling championship, and Andrew Watson said I had eaten like a hawk. Out to the pit, as happy as a lark, and carried home before 12 o'clock, blind. Oh, I was a damn fool going back to that shot before the time. But this rush for coal has got in our blood and made us regardless of anything. They have the fear of death in us now in case we lose our jobs. But what's a job compared to an affliction like this?
Your life was spared, John, and that was something to be thankful for.
Life. When E6's taken away, Agnes, so is a life. I'm not a praying man, but I'll pray this next for Jimmy's luck. Listen. Throb, throb, throb.
Jimmy enters half-dressed for work. He sits at table hurriedly and Agnes pours him some tea.
There's to be a meeting at the pit this afternoon.
Oh, what's that? I knew.
The men want a fan put in the section I'm in. We're about suffocated with gas. You could cut the air with a knife last night. And we were all going about with heads that were like to split.
Aye, get out the coal, get out the coal. What does it matter if you should breathe gas for air? Get out the coal and say Nathan.
The men are saying they'll not go down this afternoon if they didn't get a fan. And here's yin that's with them. There's enough gas in that section to blow up the whole tune. They'll work things on the cheap up there till they land themselves without a pit.
Aye, work things in the cheap, but they never suffer. We give them our eyesight and our very lives, but they never suffer. Even their engines mock us when we're helpless. Throb, throb.
Jimmy goes off to work at the pit. A short while later, John's friend Willie comes to the house. He tells John the men have gone to work on the promise that a fan will be installed the next day. But the gas is so bad that only luck is preventing a disaster. John and Willie go out on their walk, but return when John becomes distressed about being unable to see the flowers in bloom. Agnes, John's wife, is at home with their daughter Nan.
The engines will no let me sleep. The whole night through they throb and throb.
You'll need to get him away from here, Agnes. There's nothing else for it.
But where can we go, Willie? We didn't have a penny to bless ourselves with.
Well, let's pray to Christ that Jimmy gets signed on for the Rovers football team. Then, for you'll no need to get him away from here.
Listen, there's something wrong. The big engine has stopped.
They all listen. The pt2 sounds. They all stand breathless when Agnes's sister, Ravina, rushes in.
Wally, there's something happened at the pit.
What is it?
I dinna ken, but they're phoning for the doctors and the ambulance.
Surely to God it'll not be that gas.
Nan, if anything should happen to my man.
Listen,
What's that?
it's that bloody gas.
Willie rushes out.
Oh, my laddie!
What was that noise? What's wrong? The engines have stopped. For God's sake, tell me, what's wrong?
Send him home blind, send him home maimed, but dinna send him home dead. Oh, dinna send him home dead.
Ravina, tell me what's happened.
But Ravina goes out.
Start the engines! Start the engines!
Oh, Lord God, there's the pit heat in flames.
Agnes rushes out. The people pass the window in crowds, men mumbling and women weeping.
Agnes? Nan? Tell me what's wrong. Speak, somebody speak. Is it the gas? Nan? Agnes?
The passing of the people goes on. Now and again there is heard a distant rumble.
Oh, Jimmy! Jimmy, my boy, start the engines! Start the engines! Oh, God, forgive me for wishing them to stop. I'll never complain again. Start the engines! Start the engines!
He works himself up into a frenzy and falls on the floor and lies still. The people keep rushing by. There is a distant roar and then silence, the ringing of ambulance bells. At this point, the play closes to curtain. At this moment of darkness and helplessness, the future of uncertainty and end of hope for this family. If you have any questions about Joe Corrie, I'm quite happy to take any questions that you can try and answer.
What happened to Joe Corrie?
Well, he became a professional writer. After he didn't get his job back after 1926, so he managed to make enough money from writing. And he continued on right, to the end of his life, really. So, quite a happy ending for him. But he did write a poem about how he felt a little bit out of it because of that, and that even though he doesn't have to go through the suffering he was writing about anymore to the same extent, but that he kind of felt a disconnection then, and he actually, he wanted to be back in there, sort of fighting the fight with his friends. So, yeah.
Is he engaged fully in politics?
Through his writing, it is very strong political. I don't know of any sort of political engagement beyond his writing works, which was really strong.
Can I continue something?
Yeah.
On the, there's a free book everybody gets in a CD, and on the CD, Joe Corrie is singing. And he's singing, "It's fine to keep in with the gaffer." Because that play is so dark, and yet there's humour in his work, a lot of it as well, although sometimes it's very strong humour. And I put this recording off of 3 double sides of 78 records of the Miners Saturday night. And I think you probably would have got some trouble about that, because the Miners Saturday night, they all get drunk and have fun. And it's one of our short plays that plays with doing subsidies, lots of plays for community, theatre groups, etc. But just to hear himself singing and the other gives one a nice taste of it. And although there's only the one track of him singing and that, if anybody's needing to hear the rest of it, I think I'll probably put it on the website.
Thank you.
I believe he had quite a fallout with the Scottish theatre and drama establishment, because he felt his work had been, sidelined and overlooked when it should have been, performed on the national stage. And there was I think there was probably a bit of snobbery maybe involved, or some political reasons. Is there any light in that?
At the time there was like and he argued via a newspaper, basically. They both were writing in him and of the national plays. And his argument was they picked a play that was a bit worthless and idle and not really embodying modern Scotland, basically. And that because of his In Time of Strife is about a strike, and it's quite it's very political, and he felt that was why it was overlooked by the players, and they never played his plays again. So he set up his own professional company, Five Minor Players, but he used to, I remember hearing somewhere that his plays were so popular that one dramatic meeting of competition, so about 60 of his plays were performed, so and for a guinea a time for a performance of his plays. So it was quite. He was very popular and successful as a dramatist particularly of short plays.
We also see that Alan Reid on the Battlefield Band did several of the poems and music, so one of our less traditional bands, several of the songs I think became I Am the Common Man. This is one which is popular and various people have heard this and remember.
He considered himself a poet primarily, Corrie, despite writing so many plays. He personally, according to his, what I've read, he primarily considered himself a poet, and so lots of poetry was also song, turned into music and song.
Any other questions for Alex? If not, I'd like to thank Lindsay, Ellie, just outside the door, George, Ewan, Miriam, and especially Alex for organising this and such a fantastic rendering of Corrie's play. Thank you very much. We've got some music next, folks, for about 15 minutes, moving up to lunchtime. After lunch, Rab's going to do some poetry, Ewan's going to introduce the school's Disability History Project, and we've got a discussion panel. And we hope you'll stay with us through after lunch, but if not, if you are leaving, folks, we'd really appreciate it if you could fill in our evaluation forms, some of which are around on the chairs, and I think there are one or two others out on the desk in the foyer. Thanks very much. See you later.